Hi guys, so today we're going to make a really fun project. I had a blast making this. I did burn myself a couple times though, so that's unfortunate, so be really careful when you're using a hot glue gun not to burn yourself otherwise. Here is the product. It's perfect for Easter. I am so excited to show you guys how I did this. I included a couple of these vines that were in my Sphagnum Moss and tons of succulents, tons of rocks. I think this turned out great.
Okay, so I started by plugging in my hot glue gun. So a couple of tips. The hot glue gun actually does not harm the succulents. I have found that it doesn't burn the stem or anything. I usually try to avoid putting the hot glue gun or the hot glue on the leaves of the succulent itself. I usually try to just aim towards the stem of the succulent, but I've never had it be a problem for me. And the succulents always push out roots and settle into the moss perfectly. So don't worry about that. I know that people will have questions about that. If you're really concerned, you can use tacky glue, but hot glue gun makes it dry a lot faster, and so your project doesn't take you hours upon hours. So that's always really nice, and it doesn't harm the plants. So once you get all your sphagnum moss in, you can start arranging. Definitely try to put the taller succulents towards the back. I've just removed the leaves from this succulent so that I could make a short stem without having to worry about the leaves interfering with the hot glue, and so you can actually push them into the moss. You can just use your finger to dig a little hole and put them in there. So with this one, I just tried to make it very colorful and very precious, I guess, and so I used a lot of little tiny succulents. That one was probably my biggest succulent that I added. So I'll just talk about the maintenance of this for a little bit. So we still have about a month until Easter, and I definitely want to keep this around for Easter because I think it's a really cute little decoration for the table or the window. So I don't water this right away. So since we are taking fresh cuttings right off of the stem, you want to wait at least 3 days before you water your succulents, just because that open cut can absorb a lot of water and induce rotting in your succulent, and you really don't want that. So instead, wait 3 days, and then I just fill up a bowl with water about the same height as this nest, and I'll just set this nest in that bowl of water for about an hour, and then I'll take it out and set it on the counter and then allow it to drain before I put it back on the wooden table. So it's super simple. In no time, the succulents will start producing roots of their own, and this will be a maintainable centerpiece. In a month, I will give you guys an update on this centerpiece and show you how it's doing, the growth that it's done, maybe if I had to take out a succulent, if the succulents were growing well, I'll show you how to take it apart. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is the light. So ideally, I want this to be sitting on my dining room table or somewhere in the living room, and our living room really doesn't have a ton of light. And so with this, I'm fortunate enough to have grow lights, and so about once a week, I'm gonna probably take this down and put it underneath my grow light for a day. Otherwise, it gets indirect light in the afternoon from our windows, but it's really not enough, and the succulents will start to stretch and look leggy and become unhealthy, and I personally don't love that look. So I'm just going to be mitigating that by taking them down and putting them underneath the grow lights, and hopefully that should solve that problem. Otherwise, obviously you don't want to keep them under grow lights. That defeats the purpose of making a really fun arrangement, but try to put them somewhere with more sun. Otherwise, try to focus on using hyacinths, the really dark green succulents that I have in the left-hand corner. Work really well in the shade. String of pearls work really well, or sempervivums and hen and chicks. All of those succulents don't stretch as much and perform well in the shade. So right here, I am just applying some twigs that were in my sphagnum moss, and I'm just applying them with hot glue. You really cannot see the hot glue in the arrangement now, which is great because it's kind of unsightly to have just a big blob of glue around, but adding those extra twigs really added to the nest, and I think it added a nice element. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, comment below any questions that you might have, and so hopefully you'll see the next one. Okay, bye guys.